Well, hi there, folks. We have the rain coming back, only this time it's really nice. It's like thunderstorms and lightning. Sometimes it's the kind of rain where the sun is out and you see rainbows. It's a beautiful thing. I'm loving the spring. The spring comes around faster and faster every year, as does the summer and the fall and the winter. My goodness gracious. Time flies. So, just a real quick catch up. I'm writing a snarky thing. One small step for tech bros on my blog. And it's fun. And so I'll put that in the description of this video below. Please like and subscribe and share this video if you find any particular nanosecond of it enjoyable, amusing, or interesting whatsoever. I realize the world is full of content, but I'm doing my part to train large language models and AIs worldwide by uploading my data, which is derived on data and other things that I've absorbed not too deeply from my life experience in this wonderful world of ours. And, I'll try to think of a good clickbait title to this video to put on so that more than 3 people view it. Not because I want to be famous or cool, but because, gosh, what's the point? So anyway, looking through Globe Hacker's Facebook posts, and I also post at Blue Sky and Minds, in case you're interested. And that's just my curating the stuff that I'm interested in terms of current events and whatnot, and things and books and whatever. Uh, I don't know. There's so many curators in the world, but I can't help it. It's like I'm seeing certain things that I can't unsee, and then I just want to share it because I have that addiction. A baby boomer of the social media era. you know, um, we're kind of hopeless, hapless, weird, quirky people getting our quirk on. Yeah, I can't take myself too seriously, but the world is freaking me out. Not that I'm surprised at anything, because you see it coming. You see it coming, right? You've seen it coming for decades. Friends send me messages and they say, "Wow, the UK and the States have really lost it." Things like that. Uh, Portuguese friends of mine call me and say, "Yeah, I'm driving around some American clients, and they're just saying that America's messed up." Yeah, well, gosh, it has been for quite a while in various different kinds of ways as you examine its history. And when you turn away completely from any understanding of physics and biology in favor of neoliberal capitalism and progress and production and consumption and all these kinds of things. It's like colonialism and imperialism and the conquistador mentality on steroids, uh, high tech, energized by wonderful, fantastic energy sources. You're going to run into some problems. And some, people have noticed that for hundreds of years, thousands of years. But we don't notice it because we're too distracted. So, anyway, I put a few things up there. And, these days I'm kind of looking at counterpunch.org. And I'm looking at, I still get a lot of, decent kind of mainstream ideas or perspectives on the economic thing from Yanis Varoufakis, so I see his stuff on YouTube sometimes. I'm looking at Consortium News a lot. I like that outlet. And they expose things that you're not going to see in other media outlets, but there's too much. And I agree with too much media and too many outlets. And I agree with what our friend at Planet Critical was saying the other day on her podcast about how crazy it is that we have to subscribe to so many people to get, just to find two or three or four or five good journalists or sources of information. And there's just so much out there. And maybe it's better to reduce the quantity of what we put out there in favor of quality. So, any decent journalist would, even using AI tools and whatever, would have to read the reference material that the AI search came up with, vet it, think about it, pass it through his or her prompts, queries, questions, ideas, and make sure it was of some kind of unique value to the reader or the viewer or whatever, and then do their best to produce work that was honest and informative and helpful and maybe even educational or so on, and then something that might compel ordinary people to take action, because basically we're talking about things going on in the world, and if we don't take action, what's the point? We're just sitting around auditing the conversation. We're so excited about that. We're cool. We listen to the right people. Also, a lot of the bros space podcasts and everything are boring. They recycle the same people over and over again who want to be profound consultants for the universe, for the future, for humanity, and basically are just looking for attention. I see. And, after a while, it does get boring, and people get stuck in a rut. I'm stuck in a rut. Everybody's stuck in a rut. I'm right now, I'm really enjoying that blog, Do the Math, Tom Murphy's blog, and other things, that where people link to information that I think is valid, interesting, reflects reality, educates me, and so on and so forth. So we go through periods of paying attention to this, that, or the other thing, and then we get bored, hopefully, and move on as we decide that we've gotten enough out of a certain uh, interest and so on. So all this stuff with, I still love Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate. And the IPEC thing, in the States, that lobby is very powerful. Anyway, there's a lot of articles on here. Free Speech in the Apocalypse by Scott Ritter. I don't agree with everything Scott says. We tend to overestimate our understanding of complex things. Even if you do a lot of work and write a really well-researched book, we can't know it all. It's a best guess for the moment. And, sometimes we overestimate what we think we know about a situation, and we all have a point of view. And of course, I think people should be passionate about their point of view. Otherwise, what's the point of view? And Scott has his thing, but blanket statements about this, that, or the other thing, who won, who lost, so early in the game. The fact is we're all losers because we're playing a game that goes against the dictates of nature. And so we will lose this game in the long run. How long is the long run depends on feedbacks and complex systems that we can't comprehend. So where do you go from here? So stuff about open AI feuds, Elon Musk, and who's going to buy what company? Is OpenAI going to buy Twitter back from Musk because his stock price is down? The whole thing, all of this stuff is so absurd, what we pay attention to. And in terms of what really matters at the end of the day, like you and your relationships and your friendships, and whether you have decent housing and healthcare and all these wonderful things about just living in a living world, most of the stuff we pay attention to is just nothing. It's meaningless. And these narratives that we're addicted to or believe in, legacy narratives and so on, things we've been taught and told, are going to get us killed. We have to question our narratives. At the same time, it's good to have traditions and trust in narratives. And we live in a narrative world. We're narrative beasts, and so we can't live without stories. But we should both revere and love our stories and question our stories, especially if the stories are getting us in trouble. Um, you know, and you can look throughout history for examples of that. I like Ray Dalio. I've read his books, but he's talking about a market system whose days are numbered. So all of his ideas about how you predict macroeconomic trends and whatnot don't really freaking matter now, folks. Maybe they do to your bottom line between now and the next UFC event or Super Bowl or whatever it is you look forward to. But in the long run, it's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. And I posted a Willie Nelson Still Not Dead video. He's great. And yeah, I'm still not dead. Staying alive. Ay, 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 I'm staying alive. And another wonderful piece that some Medium author put up, he did a good job with it, um, about this guy, I show speed. Some guy, American guy, was just traveling around China, live streaming, and basically the piece about it was, all of his videos was that you can't pay for PR like that or diplomacy like that. China could never have dreamt it up. You just can't. It's just a guy traveling around China, amazed at how cool a country it is. I lived in China for 20 years. First time I went to China, that was 1980 with my mom and her friend. I've seen China change over the decades. And I also lived in Japan for 10 years. So, for me, it all makes sense. And also, I think that traveling and living in other countries makes me more able to just love the world in a different way and not get freaked out about culture wars and other meaningless crap. So anyway, that's really cool. So I'm going to start watching some of his I Show Speed videos because I think it'll be fun. And I haven't been back to China since 2019, so it'll be fun to see what bells and whistles capitalism with Chinese socialist characteristics has come up with, the Communist Party of China. And other articles about, America's going to insist on going to war over Taiwan because it doesn't really know what else to do about China. And I've said in other essays that, I've worked in Taiwan and China, and I've had offices in Beijing and Shanghai, and I just don't see the necessity for the conflict. But, if you're interested in the history, you can go back and look at it. I'm not going to lecture on it. I'm not qualified. I only have my own personal anecdotal experience to rely on there, but I like to read. I've read some books about it, articles. Oh, I'm so well informed. I'm so well informed. Wow. Jesus. Share this video. Click like. tell everybody about this well-informed geezer in Portugal. Other things about, what's going on. Why AI is scarier than you think kind of stuff, which is fun. And it goes back to my little article. And then I got reacquainted with another lady who has a podcast. I'm not very enamored with it, but Sarah Wilson is an interesting lady from Australia. Talks about collapse, a subject I'm very interested in. Anyway, if you go to the Facebook, if you have Facebook, Globe Hackers page, you'll find this kind of posts, these kinds of posts, minus the cute cats and whatnot. Minds, if you use that, Blue Sky. I post on Twitter, but I don't like Twitter for obvious reasons now, and couldn't do that anyway. Why am I posting? What's the point? Indie.ca is always good in my opinion, although it might rub almost everybody the wrong way. But his perspective, his lens, his frame, to put it into consultant speak. I read Hall's recent thing about his making sense of, what's going on today. I found it very shallow, actually. He's an interesting person, but it wasn't that deep. And I expected a little more from him. But he's a born again Christian now, in a kind of not a, you wouldn't call it a proto intentional community, because it's just a small town in Carolina somewhere where you have a little community like we used to all know if you're old. Anyhow, you can go and look at that if you want. I wish you would. But I don't really have much more to say about anything right now. I will get back to this, Spinoza and the New Deal and so on. Only to delve a little bit more deeply into those subjects and show how they interrelate. But I kind of lost the thread on that one because I went down a couple rabbit holes. One was about gangsterism and crime and gangs in America, and why the hell every state in the Union has more prisoners than any other democracy in the world, and so on and so forth. What the hell is the pathology that just per capita, why are there 2 million prisoners in the United States? I mean, why wouldn't we ask that question? And then I'm going to come back again later and talk about this little snarky piece, One Small Step for Tech Bros, because the TESCREAL space or bundle is an interesting thing. And you have to understand that the mad psychopathy of their fantasies and how ridiculous and insane the whole thing is. So on one hand, you have willful, ignorant people who have some concept of a former period of time that was good, and they want to recreate it in the 21st century somehow, when everything's changed and things are so much more complex. You have that clique of conservative or right wing. You have completely inept, impotent left-wing people who can't even talk to each other. You have all these legacy ideologies that have no chance in hell because they were really formed during modernity and enlightenment and all these things. There's nothing wrong with it. Science, I love science and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we're not very wise about how we use these things. And because of that, we're snuffing life, and we can't live without complex, evolving, living systems. And we're just too arrogant. So I'm totally on board with Tom Murphy's ideas on human supremacy and how ugly and stupid that is. But I don't see at this kind of modern techno-industrial civilization scale our becoming wise. You know, there's too many interesting questions to ask, you know, a UFC fighter, and there are too many opportunities to be a social media influencer and other important things like that. Um, Careerism in politics, so much more important than posterity. Why should we care? And the tech bros have an answer, you know, just accelerate things until life disappears and the universe is one big machine that you had some, you know, some form of, you know, collaboration in creating. I mean, you know, you shared your data, you lived, you know, you were part of it all. And then the whole world just turns into some, you know, runner without the people. Um, you know, you replace the multiverse with just strings and strings of machines. It's not what Descartes was talking about. Not really. You know, the rationalists weren't really that extreme. You know, the whole dualism thing, mind, body, spirit, whatever, Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, Trinity, whatever, filioque. All of this stuff is just people thinking about things and trying to figure them out and then naming them. Naming them. I named it. I own it. I created it. It's mine. And, you know, coming up with these pithy little, you know, Jamie Wheel PowerPoint essays, not even essays, blurbs, you know, it's like one sentence paragraphs. So it's not too complex or difficult for us stupid idiots to read. You know, consultants think that they just come up with a new way of saying something and they're geniuses, you know. But anyway, everything's derived on everything. All the stories and myths are derived on other stories and myths, and they all come organically from our struggle to survive over thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So that'll be the next little thing. I'll, I'll talk about that. But anyhow, have a nice weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. Bully MT.